meeting of the Lincoln County Budget Committee. Got a pretty healthy agenda tonight, so we'll get started with the county mayor.
Okay, first thing we got Tony Patterson. Tony, if you'll come up there. We have funded Tony's program back last year out of some of our opioid money for, was it about 4 months, Tony, that we funded? Was it $2,000 a month, I think? And he'll tell you about his program and some stuff. He is requesting funding again for this program for our next budget year. That money, if approved, would come out of our opioid money. And after Tony explains things, I'm gonna go over and get you kind of up to date on the opioid money and how it comes in and how we can spend it.
Tony Patterson, like I said, my day job is with South Central Human Resource Agency as the drug court director essentially there. I run the misdemeanor program with Judge Myrie and help kind of provide some oversight for our other 3 courts. We have a felony court in Lincoln and one in Murray and one in Lawrenceburg. So this whole project is not something I set out to do. Actually, I was approached by a judge and said, can you do something to try to help reach the kids in this community and try to make a difference? So I said, yeah, I really want to work with substance abuse, juveniles, real easy program, sure, why not? But so came up with this. Now my background, master's degree in justice administration, I worked with at-risk youth through Health Connect and Youth Villages for several years as well. Also a consultant with the National Drug Court Association, which is now called All Rise. And part of that is to actually go around the country and teach new drug courts as they're coming on board, what to expect, how to overcome hurdles, and all that good stuff. So judge asked and I said sure. So I started looking at evidence-based programs, and there was basically 2, Matrix model and Hazelden. And so this is patterned after the Matrix model. Essentially it's an intensive outpatient, but I avoid calling it that because when you do that, it starts to lock in a certain number of hours every week, and the approach I took was very different, and it was less time with the juveniles, asking them to give it their all. Basically their attention span, if you try to hold them in that room for 3 hours, after 45 minutes is almost gone anyway. So we had 11 initial kids that signed up, and actually as far as success rates go, they still are about to wrap up that first group because it is literally a 4-month program. So it's 8 sessions of early recovery, then they go into 32, which are relapse prevention. So you have your hands on for 4 months, which I think is a positive thing because it might be the only positive environment that are actually in for those 4 months. A lot of them don't have that type of exposure. So what I try to do is the same thing I do with drug court. I try to teach you to be honest, give it your best effort, and let's see what we can do. So I've had, there's 2 individuals who are no longer in the program, but it's not because of anything to do with this. It's because our probation officer at the time, I think it was DCS actually, said they didn't have to continue. And that's a whole conversation to have with the judge and the officers as well. If you're going to start, you need to finish. And so that's something I've talked to him about as well. So, this kind of lays out what I'm doing. Basically, myself involved, another instructor who's also under LADAC supervision, which is licensed alcohol and drug use counselor, and also have someone who's a drug court graduate who is working on their certified peer recovery specialist. So they make the class really worthwhile because they really get in the face of the kids sometimes and really call them on their stuff, and they really seem to identify with it. And I've included some quotes on this that some of the kids gave me. And but as far as success, I think one thing I try to do with this is a little different. I can give them the skills they need if they really want to stop using. If you're expecting them all to stop, we've set the bar way too high with this population. But if you're hoping for a small dent, then that's about more realistic. But they all have the skill set. They all know what to do, I think, once they go through the class, but they're learning other stuff. And the 2 I'll give an example of, 2 young men, both had a slip-up. They both actually came to us and said, we need to talk. This was ahead of class. They talked down. They owned up to what they did. They talked about stressors at home. I then said, here's what I'd recommend you do. Call your probation officer. Set up an appointment with them ahead of your next one and go over to them and tell them what you did as well. They both did that. And I mean, that's something you're not going to see in a lot of programs because most are going to wait till the next appointment, and then if they get busted, they do, or they're going to wait on a report. But these two guys actually went ahead of time. And I thought that was huge, because it's showing that, yeah, they're understanding how to stop if they want to stop, but they're also getting a little bit more out of it as far as responsibility and learning how to take ownership of who they are and what they do. So those two kind of come to mind. I kind of laid out as much as I could, and kind of like the three. One thing I want to add to it, and the reason the money's there is because I want to add drug screens in the program itself. Because right now, I can't tell you how many of those kids can tell me 3 weeks in advance when their next drug screen is. And that is not beneficial at all. And so, to me, it's like we're spending our lives on not can actually have random frequent drug screens. And those aren't cheap. So that's one thing I'm wanting to add. And if I can do that, I want to actually have a sit down again, because I don't want the probation officer to say, you failed once, you're out, we're shipping you off, because they're just sending them to chaos for how many months till they come back. I'd rather than give them a fighting chance. Doesn't mean it's a free ride the whole way through, but obviously if they continue to do that, it may reach a point where we say, okay, this isn't your program. But I want them to have a chance to kind of grow and to learn and to take ownership of what they do. So, I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell, I guess, throwing out there what I got. And like I said, this is the only reason I'm here is because the judge came to me and said, would you be willing to try to make a dent in this population? Because he sits on the bench and sees grandparents and parents and kids. He sees this cycle. So we're trying to do anything we possibly can at this point, outside of throwing the kitchen sink at them, to try to get them to do something a little different for themselves and take ownership. So that's kind of what I got.
Any questions about how many people? Okay, the total request would be 33,600.
Yeah, like roughly 2,800 a month. What I'm trying to do, we initially set out $50 a week for each kid.
Right.
We were gonna leave it on to the families that they could pay it, but we're finding out real fast is almost none of them can pay it. So what I would like to do is structure it where there's no limit on the kids, no family has to pay. So if it's 10 kids or if it ends up being 20, it's gonna be okay, we can have extra classes if we need to. A traditional IOP, if these kids were to go to any other neighboring county and get that, those guys are billing insurance probably 150 plus per class per kid. Sometimes it goes up to 250. I'm just trying to keep it where it's at least something where it takes the pressure off of everybody, where the families aren't having to actually try to come up with it. We were gonna have the families go back into court, but it became obvious real quick, it's gonna create a nightmare scenario for the judge and everyone to have to deal with this back and forth with the family, and if they're not there. So, so that's where I try to go with that, to try to pick up
How
some of
many
that.
families in a year's time would we be serving?
Well, I'm wide open to that. If I can go this way, I'm wide open, because I can pull extra people in. That's why I'm hoping it grows. I think they're seeing the evidence of it, especially officers that had their kid actually contact them ahead of time and say, hey, I want to come talk, and I've messed up. And some of them being identified, I would have never probably done that in another program, but you guys are teaching me to try to be responsible for myself. And one thing about the responsibility I've added to this is there's a monthly app that I actually went out and got, and the kids are in that app. And that's messaging, it's homework, it's required reading, but the beauty of it is also in that app is their probation officer, if they choose to participate, and the judge. So a lot of times I'll post something, the kids will actually respond with their answers, and then you'll see the judge right behind them say, good answer, or I would challenge you to work harder on this. And I mean, to me, which I try to tell them all, if it's me, I'm responding yes on her, they don't respond nothing. But anyway, I'm working on that. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there or not, but I think that's a really interesting mix to add to it as well, that there's interaction there that they're not used to having. And if they don't participate, they all know very fast, I will text him on the spot and say, this one's not. Or I'll tell him, juvenile court's Wednesday at 9, be there at 9, I'll show up too, and we'll find, you can tell the judge why you're not wanting to answer the questions you're doing. That was tested early on, it only took 2 people, and everyone realized real quick, this is different. This isn't like the other programs we go to. This guy will flat have me in front of the judge, and we met right before court started, and poured him in the jury room, and judge had a real heart-to-heart conversation, and lo and behold, everyone since has now realized that I'll actually have you in front of him if you're not going to participate. So, just a different approach, just trying to do what we can.
I'll go over this about the opioid distribution there, but Anthony, I don't think I got you one. Did you get one?
No.
And you were the first one here.
In the last one.
If you, if you wanna wait just a minute, are there any questions for Tony before I go over this real quickly?
I got one question. You annualized that, it was 33,600.
Uh-huh.
He said in his opening statement that he wanted to add drug screening. Is drug screening included in that 36? Is it?
We initially looked at 2,000 a month, but I wanted to make sure I could get drug screens in there too. The only thing I may not have with the drug screen would be court challenge confirmations. I mean, I'm not gonna be set up with a lab like drug court. I can send it to the lab, it can come back, I can send it for a confirmation, they can have a toxicologist come. I don't think we would be going that far anyway with this population, it would be more of simply a violation. But they will have the drug screens in-house to just be random. Of course, the difference with the drug court population, they're observed screens. I'm not doing anything like that with juveniles, it's nothing like that. It's gonna be empty your pockets, don't flush. Several precautions, putting blue dye in the commodes, they're not mixing water in there. I mean, just all kinds of multiple things, but it'll be a quick screen for that. So I believe it's 16 different substances, including fentanyl and K2 and stuff like that.
Okay, if everybody's got their copy of this, I'll run down this real quick. The opioids funds are coming from the manufacturer and the distributors of all the opioids that caused all of our problems over the last ever how many years. The city and county, and it's paid out over 18 years, and we've already got 1 years of payments. So we have basically 17 more years. Now, if you'll go down to the bottom, let me give you figures to write in down there, and then we'll go to this other part, so you'll kind of know. On item number 6 below, in that account right there, we have, if you want to write this down, $149,529.49. And in that number 7, the smaller account is $85,798.31. Now, if we'll go back up, the reason we got so much in these early ones, some of the companies paid all their monies up front. A few of them did. Johnson & Johnson did. There may have been another one of the distributors. And next year, we should get our payment in January or first quarter anyway. Walmart is gonna pay all of theirs in the 2024. There may be manufacturers or distributors that go out of business over the next 17 years. We will get an estimate of those, but it's gonna be nothing like what we've been getting. It's gonna be smaller amounts. Here's kind of, when you go, how the money comes down to the county. 15% of the money that comes from the federal settlement in this comes, of the total coming into Tennessee, 15% goes into the general fund, the state. They can use it any way they want to. 15% goes to local communities. And in that 15%, it's the smaller amount down here that's in 7, and it's less restricted than that amount there. Then 70% of the 100 goes in a trust fund that there is an abatement council that distributes this money as it goes back. 75% goes in the trust fund, and out of this fund, local government receives 35%. Non-competitive, it will be coming back to the counties and cities, but 65% of all of that will go to the opioid abatement council, and non-government agencies that apply for this will get the most of it. Now, like Tony's agency may be able to apply in the future, but that hasn't come up yet. And then we have to make semi-annual reports at the end of March and the end of September. And then I told you the amounts in those. Tony's, they fall in the category of the larger amount there that they could be, or the other one, either one. So we should be taking it out of 149,000 because his falls in what the restricted items would be. October, I'm having the lady from CTAS that's a specialist on this come to the commission, so we'll present it to all the commission then about it. It seems a little complicated, and it is, but if you got any questions, I'll try to answer
I
them.
do, Bill.
Okay?
How much do we take in every year? How much are they sending us every year?
We will not, they will, I don't know. We will know probably after the first year an estimate of it.
Okay.
Next year's payment's gonna be larger than the next 16 years, but it's not gonna be as large as what we've already got.
The 149, 529, 49, where's those funds now? And are they an interest bearing account?
Okay, that's a good question about, I don't know where they are, but I can tell you, on the one that's the, let's see, the one that's under number 7, that one, it can be an interest and it can go in the general fund. This other one, it can bear interest, but it has to go back in that fund. It's restricted on the interest on it. And I don't know if that's a trustee question, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's definitely a good question,
Yeah.
but I can find out.
Any other questions?
Do we need to take action on this tonight?
I would like for us to pass a proposal funding that.
Well, Bill, it's paid out over 18 years, and it's funded by what mechanism?
The funding comes from the drug companies, the abusers of the opioid, reason we got the opioid problem, and some of the distributors of the opioid drugs.
How much does Lincoln County get per year? Is it a
Well,
formula?
That was what she asked.
He didn't.
I don't know
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
The webinar last week or the week before, we're supposed to get in 24, 151,000. And then in 25, it should be 67,000, and then 26, it'll be 75,000.
And how much would you disperse every year? Is it just the amount that we would?
We have, and the commission got this, here, we have an we have an opioid committee on that, Judge Myrick, and I asked Murray if he wanted to stay on it. He said no, it'd be all right to replace him by Joyce. Joyce has said she would. The other people on that committee are Dr. Bill Jones, Reverend Tommy Van, Finance Director Jason Nix, Commissioner Daniel Eldridge, and myself. We have, and I'll get this out to all of y'all tomorrow, Williamson County has their policy and applications, and I'll send it to you. Basically, the way they usually have done it, they make an application for it, the committee reviews it, makes a suggestion, the commission would act on it.
Any questions, anybody?
So it's self-funding, it'll fund itself each year?
Yes,
And if the funding is not adequate, what happens?
we would just want funding. And we have to, I think we have to spend last year's within 2 years. Is that right, Dina? I think that's correct on
That is correct.
Okay. So we have the funding before we, apply.
So Bill, which one are you taking it out of? Which one do you
We
want
would
to
be
take it out of?
taking it out of the big one.
Okay, 149,000.
Yeah. Because his qualifies, that's the restricted, one most restricted, but his qualifies under the restriction, those 16 pages. And if anybody wants that, we'll send them that.
Talking about 33,600 then at 2,800 per month that you want us to
Yes,
take
sir.
action on tonight.
Yes,
That would
sir.
be out of that 149,000.
Yes, sir.
529.
Yes, sir.
You say 33,600 per month or per year?
Per year, it's
Okay.
2,800
Okay.
per month.
Okay, all right,
33,600 for the
okay.
year. Somebody got that? Okay, Mayor, you have
Thank you.
other things?
Thank
Thank you, sir.
I really think that's the only thing, Dina, you you've got the thing about that ARP water funds.
I've got
Okay. Finance and everybody's working on, you know, we got about 4.5 million in ARP funds for the water department. That thing's complicated as most things are, but, we're working through that and we're on schedule with everything on that. One of the things, the ethics committee will be meeting soon because they brought up another thing from the state. They want to be the enforcer of ethics in Lincoln County. And Ed Sims suggested to be the chairman of the
It's totally
ethics.
ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
Well,
Why?
pardon?
I said it's totally ridiculous.
It is, but, you know, it's something the state wants. So anyway, the ethics committee will, meet sometime soon. We got till January to do it, but, the, chairman of that committee is suggested to be the enforcer of ethics in Lincoln County. I believe that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Got another question too, Mr. Mayor, what about the shelter? I know the animal shelter.
Okay.
What's the latest on that?
Okay, the Humane Society gave us notice October 1st, they was gonna be out of the business. We went out and the city and their building inspector went out and looked at the facility. We were a little shocked, but we're gonna have to do quite a bit of work there. One of the questions we asked them, would they be interested in purchasing it back from us? They're not interested in purchasing the thing. We paid $100,000 for it when we bought it, 50 from the city, 50 from the county. We're moving forward in looking at, we're gonna have to take it over. One of the questions they said, if they're going to do animal control until October 1st, they needed 2 more weeks to get out of the building, which is fine with me, but Ed has written a letter back to them with that response to we haven't given it to them yet because we don't have all the dates. But we're just moving forward, like the city and county's going to have to just take it over in October. But there's quite a bit of repairs we're gonna have to do.
So what is the plan for the building?
What?
What is the plan for that building after they're
There'll
out?
still be animal control at this time.
But after they're moving out?
Oh, it would be city, county animal control building.
Okay.
Who's actually gonna be doing it? What's the plan as far
The
as getting
lady,
somebody to do the work?
that works there now wants to stay on, and some of the staff does. You know, the city's taking the lead on it, man. I appreciate the lead that Kevin's taken, Kevin Owens. That's kind of where we are.
Well, we may need to stick our nose in there a little further, because, you know, we got a month basically. You know, I would hate to see us get in a situation, and it would seem ideally that having those people that are already there, and if they're wanting to stay, to hire them or something there, so.
You know, we went 3 months last year without animal control totally.
Yeah.
So it isn't something that, it's something we don't want to go without, but it's something, if we have to, it's not the hospital.
Bill, excuse me.
Are we gonna go, are we gonna try to get some of these repairs done during this downtime, or who's in charge of spearheading that part of it?
We're still, we really don't know. You know, that's, you know, I would like to say, yeah, we're gonna go in there, we know it's gonna cost a blank number of dollars to fix it up. You could start operating the day after they move out if you have to. There's enough permanent cages that were there that we could do something. It's just, it's gonna be a process, though. It ain't gonna be something we can step in on day one and be where we wanna be too. And we still have, I think we have spent less than $4,000 out of that $250,000, pretty close.
Oh, no, we spent more than that.
More than 4,000.
Oh, we close to 18,000.
Okay.
A lot of it electrical, didn't we?
Yes, that's
Okay.
electrical.
One swap or something.
Okay.
And then
So
we did the air.
20,000, probably
I understand there's some kind of the drain that's stopped up again. I think we had paid somebody to stop a drain back there in the back, and apparently it's stopped up again, so I'm not sure what that problem is.
If
That's a-
it's
that's a
stopped
new
up,
thing,
if
apparently.
it's stopped up now, I don't know.
I think that was, is today.
Oh, well, I hadn't heard from him today.
Was, I remember us saying that it needed some work, but I didn't remember it being that horrible when we looked at it last year.
Well, most of it has been, it's just that they're hoarders. They've hoarded everything. It's, when they clean it out, it's gonna look better if they clean it out than it does now. They just, there's stuff in there that don't work. They haven't taken, there's a freezer, a walk-in freezer that hasn't worked in years and it's still just sitting there. They got old equipment that they don't use. Nothing's ever removed.
All right. Other questions for the mayor? Anybody? All right, you didn't have anything else, Mayor?
No, sir.
All right, let's move on. Will Thomas had a conflict tonight and is not gonna be able to be here, so we're gonna get him rescheduled on that. Next on the agenda, Dr. Bill Heath, Director of Lincoln County Schools. You wanna come up front here, Dr. Heath, you wanna, or present from up here, or what?
I'm good here. Appreciate it though. Yeah, I guess you all have seen several of the drawings that we have out here. We had a board meeting just last week. And at our board meeting, of course, our board voted on the guaranteed maximum price, voted to come to you tonight with a request for a resolution, a bonding resolution to finance the project. We also have these drawings available. We invited all the parents and the Highland River School and the kids to come out to a meeting where it was an informational meeting where we had these drawings out there. So I thought I would leave these up for tonight since we just had a board meeting, because just to reiterate something Mr. Cunningham said in the beginning, that budget process was long and everything, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everything that you did through that process. Anyway, I can try to answer questions about any of that if you want me to. The footprint looks a lot like the current Blanche School. The footprint of this building, a little larger, a few extra rooms, gymnasium's bigger. Gymnasium, I don't have the exact number, but I think in the bleachers it'll seat like 1150 or 1140. Cafeteria is quite a bit larger. Lincoln County High School's cafeteria, for example, is about 5,000 square feet. This cafeteria is 3,000 square feet. So it's 60% the size of that one, so that's pretty good size. So we're excited. We're excited to be at this point. And like I said, the board asked or voted unanimously the other night, which is I think we counted it up as the 10th vote leading through up to this project from a couple of years ago up to this point, and all of those have been unanimous at the board level to ask you for a bonding resolution to build this school. And our request is that the approximately 39 cents of property tax that was coming to schools out of the recent property tax increase, that all of that go for this school, whether it's renovations of the old building, first construction of the new building, but then renovations to the old building and anything else to do with that whole project. And that's our request from the school board. I'll bet answer any questions that I can, or
Would the board, would y'all like to come up and kind of show you what they're doing?
How many students gonna be in this school?
it's built for, what, 600?
What'd you have?
Number of students that is built.
Core 700.
Core 700, yeah, 700.
And how many do you hold out, are you planning on holding out there? How many students will be going there? Are you gonna, when you move over to the other school, is that gonna make the 700?
We will eventually, the end vision on this is that the two buildings will house about half the students on that campus
Okay.
each. And there's plenty of room for growth there.
Do we have estimates of construction yet?
Yes, I've got estimates, in fact, we've got a guaranteed maximum price for construction. I'll tell you what, I presented to the board the other night was estimated revenue, and Mr. Nix gave this to me, based on, consultation, that the 39 cents would possibly raise up to $43 million. If you recall, 6-8 months ago, in this room here, I think what we were told to shoot for was a million per penny, I believe is what was said in here. So that's how we landed on that 40 cents, $40 million. But at this point, it must mean that rates are lower or something's different, you know. So if it raises 40, you know, would raise possibly 43 million. So for that 43 million, to break it down, the guaranteed maximum price of the construction of all the bids and all came out at $26,997,000. The technology that is not included in there was, we've got a quote for $1.012 million. So that's on top of the guaranteed maximum price. Furniture, I estimated 250, Mr. Bryant said it should be more like 500, so somewhere between 250 and 500. I've got a big asterisk by that on my spreadsheet. Awnings, 50,000. Additional road work, we have put $1 million in there. We hope that's high, but we don't want to be caught short. A lot of that asphalt, a lot of that road work is in the bids, but that's one area, you know, really have never been overly pleased with the traffic flow on that campus and around that campus, because there's so many car riders there that we've got a golden opportunity here to fix that problem for long term. And so we want to make sure we've got money in there. Architectural and engineering fees was approximately $1.25 million, and the purchase of the land was approximately $250,000. So all of that comes up to just shy of $41 million. It's $40.969 million. So, you know, so you think 43, 40 point, I'm sorry, I left one thing out. The split with Fayetteville City, they would get $10,160,000, which is so it's a little over 23%. I think I've been quoted several times at right at 22%. I think there's a slight difference. It's not weighted FTE, average daily attendance. It's simply average daily attendance for this, right? That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life, and I guess so. So it's a slight difference, about a little over 1% difference. So the city's getting $10.16 million. All of that, the sum is 40.969. Now, if you back out of that, a couple of things we've already paid for out of other funds in the school system, the architectural and engineering fees and the land purchase, which together is 2.25. So back that out, keep that in mind for a moment, and the remaining between the sum and the estimated revenue, all of that will total somewhere between $4.5 and $5 million when you add our 177 fund that we get, which is about 15 pennies annually. When you add all that together, we're estimating right now that in 2 years, when it's time to start a big portion of the renovation, that somewhere between $4.5 and $5 million will be available immediately for that renovation. Hopefully it'll be more. Hopefully that road work estimate is high. The guaranteed maximum price, you know, these construction managers like to come in under that because, you know, they got to pay anything over, anything under we get. So we'll get some back there, we hope. So, you know, hopefully that'll be close to $5 million when renovation time begins, and we can, by that time, have mapped out step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 in renovation and get that done in a timely manner. And so we've got one brand new facility, one renovated facility for all the kids in that community. So, any questions?
I got an Ashley question, I guess. Okay, when we do that, do we have to draw the money at the time when we sign it? but can we draw interest off of that money?
So the way that will work is you'll actually take possession of all the funds
Okay.
at closing, and you will be able to invest those funds at that time. And the current market, your investments are probably earning more than your borrowing rate. So you'll actually earn a little bit of interest there, while those funds are being spent, or waiting to be spent. I'm not sure how much you're gonna be actually reimbursing yourself for already expended funds, but there are spend down provisions, and we go over those at closing, of course, with bond counsel, and there are ways to spend your funds to avoid any sort of what we call arbitrage, where you make an excess over the borrowing rate and you have to remit it to the IRS. There are strategies where you can actually spend those funds according to a schedule and avoid any arbitrage issues. And so for 20 years, we hadn't had an arbitrage issue. This year we do, because the rates have moved up so quickly on the investment side. So good news is borrowing rates are still pretty low, and your investments are a little bit higher than your borrowing rates right now.
Is that calculated into this, or is that?
It's not calculated into this. Traditionally, the investment earnings, because your investment earnings, you don't know how much you're gonna earn or how little. You may, a year from now, we may be looking at half of the interest income. That's traditionally gone to the general fund for the county, I believe. And so that's the way that's been handled in the past, but that's not figured into the 43 million that we projected.
Okay, one other question, okay, because, yeah, I think y'all requested in this year's budget for us to pay you back some of those, but that wasn't in this year's budget, was it, pay y'all back? For the land purchase and the,
I put it on this spreadsheet as a part of this 43 million, but it's going right back into renovations. So you can say,
you're saying.
hey,
it's
we
coming-
didn't pay you back, but.
You're saying
that's
it's
just-
coming out of Ashley's money, not the budget, not what we've already got. It's coming out of our
It's out
bond
of this
issue.
43 million.
It's out of
Coming out of
borrowed
our bond
funds, that's
issue.
right.
Okay,
Is that what you're asking? So,
yeah, not that I'm agreeing with it, but that's what it is. Yes,
The 23% is supposedly go to the city school.
yes,
Is it 23% or more? Because,
it's 23.6,
Actually,
I've got it here, so what you
Yeah, I
said.
actually have a copy for you all, if you'd like to have a copy of that, just to show you the breakdown.
So when you say 23%, you're talking about students that go to our school, you're not talking about the, population inside the city?
no,
No,
it's
it's public school students in the city make up 23% average daily attendance, 23.6 something percent.
so it's based on attendance?
Of the-
Based
Based
on
on
attendance,
attendance.
okay,
And the other split, rather than saying 22%,
okay.
students have different weights based on if they're special ed or some category. That does not reflect it when you do a bond, like it is all the other money that the school system has to split. So that's why there's a little over a 1% difference.
So the agreement that we got with the city, it says based on a population?
This is a state law.
Yeah,
That's
state
not
law.
the agreement.
Gotcha. It supersedes, okay,
Yeah.
okay. It ends up being 270,000 more than what it would be a straight 23% of the 43 million. So,
It's 23.6, well, hey, it's carried out 10 decimal places on here if you look at it.
okay.
Gee, we get to bring them in and let them explain how they're gonna spend their money?
Well, I thought I'd give
Yeah.
Mr. Jones here a call tomorrow and
That would have changed for a year. You know, all year.
tell him.
Yeah, I would think they probably figured it already.
But it is easy to understand that law because city residents pay county taxes, so that's why the law, I guess,
It's right, but not right.
it's right until you deliver that check.
All right, questions for Dr. Heath? And we kind of bled over into Ashley's comments too, so I guess if we don't have anything else for Dr. Heath, we'll get Ashley. And I'll see up here, and you can
Thank
go
you.
up front, or you can talk there, it's whatever's good for you, Ashley.
Whichever's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll step up there to the mic just in case, so y'all can hear me better.
Hand those out.
I'll offer here in a second.
Ashley, and his dad, have helped us with our financing issues for as long as I've been here, so excited to have you here tonight. Appreciate you coming down, actually.
We appreciate the opportunity to work with Lincoln County and have enjoyed a good relationship for many years, and certainly welcome the opportunity to work with you again in this financing. The resolution, I believe, was sent out from the finance department. I want to make sure everybody that wants a copy of that resolution maybe has it electronically. I also have print copies. If y'all would like to have a print copy, we can distribute those as well. But the resolution finances, as Dr. Heath had shared, the 43 million, it will be issued through a competitive bid bond sale like you handled your financings in the past. So we would put the bonds out for a fixed rate bid, and in the past, you've traditionally gotten 5, 10, sometimes more than 10 bidders, nationally recognized underwriting bidders, to bid on your bonds. And on the day of the sale, we set it at a specific time, a specific place. Those bids are blind bids, and at that specific time, we open those bids. We come here to the county, being the finance director, Nix's department there in the finance department. We would open those bids, and then you would decide if you want to award based on the lowest true interest cost fixed rate bid. In the current market, in this bond issue, we have proposed issuing the bonds for a 20-year fixed rate level debt service, meaning your principal and interest payments would be approximately the same each year, so that as you budget your payment, you'll know what that payment's going to be. It won't fluctuate and require any differences in your revenues going to pay that debt service. You'll have it appropriated, and you'll know what it's going to be from this year till the end of the financing maturity. So these bonds will go out to 2043. As I've shared, the 3.75% is where we are in the current market. It's subject to bid. Could be a little higher, could be a little lower. And then we also reserve the right for the county to refinance the bonds at a set, typically 8 to 10 years out. You can go in and refinance those bonds at your discretion, and you can actually save by reducing your interest rate at that point if it makes sense for the county. We've done that before on your bond issues where there are refunding opportunities for savings. We've actually gone in and done that and saved the county money. So it's at your discretion. There's not a put provision, meaning if you make your debt service payments, they're not going to come to you and say this loan is due and callable at any point in time in the future. It's at your discretion. Let's see, other things. I guess with that, Dr. Heath went over your sharing requirement under the borrowing laws under the state of Tennessee. That's based on your last year's statistical report prepared by the Department of Education. They have an ADA report. This percentage breakdown won't change for borrowing purposes for another year, because we just got the report here recently, so it'll be another year before that 23% versus 76% changes. With that, the other thing I will add, worked with Finance Director Nix and his department. We've looked at your Fund 151, which is your general debt service fund, and you all have provided the necessary revenues to support the new debt service at this level. If interest rates move up, then of course the borrowing would come down some, but based on where we are in the current market, we feel comfortable with the 43 million. And so your Fund 151 debt service does support and pay the debt service on this without any need for any additional revenues beyond what you currently have. So with that, I'll be quiet, and if y'all have questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Ash?
Does this bond have acceleration clauses if hypothetically if you come to a windfall, or do you just have to wait?
Well, you have the option. So we typically will have an 8-year, the traditional bond market is a 10-year call. We've structured ours where they're a little bit shorter, so an 8-year call. So in 2031, you'll be able to, or after, any point at that point or after, you'll be able to call it in, pay it off early, pay off a portion of it early, or pay off all of it early, or refinance it to a lower interest rate and leave it, the same principal maturities that you have. But I think that's a nice feature to have. And then as you do get some it's still a pretty low rate, so you may not necessarily see the need to have that feature.
How much longer would you have to push out the call for it to, help us on the interest rate?
Well, it really doesn't help you beyond the 8th year.
Okay.
If there was, that's a good question, but really in the current market, there's no benefit. They feel like they can project out in that 8-year range, and beyond that, they just don't know what, as far as the bondholders and underwriters.
In this agreement, is this the standard agreement that we've signed in the past?
It
Is
is.
there no additional language that was skipped by us that we didn't catch? Okay.
This is the traditional bond resolution prepared by Asbury and Sims, who has been your bond attorney for a number of years. And to speak to their experience, they wrote many of the Tennessee Code laws relative to bond financing, and so they're very clear on making sure that what you do, and I also want to make sure that what I do as your advisor for the county is in accordance with Tennessee Code annotated, but also meets securities and exchange laws and internal revenue service laws as well, so that there's not any issues relative to anything going on with the financing that would be a problem for you later.
Other questions for Ashley? I think that's got us. Ashley, we appreciate it very much. Thank you so
I
much,
appreciate
sir.
it. If you do have questions later, Jason knows where to find me, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have Sheriff Joyce McConnell and CFO of the Sheriff's Department, Sandy Metcalf. Are you both speaking, or one speaking, or?
Do we need to go ahead and make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, we're gonna
you
go
go
back
on.
to the
Okay.
top and
Okay.
after we get
All
done
right.
here.
We're both going to speak, we'll tag team this tonight, why not?
All right.
So I won't follow exactly how the agenda is set out, because I've got it set out to the way I was going to speak tonight. So first, the amendment for the clothing allowance, which we do every year, so it's simply just an amendment from the salary line to the clothing appropriate line as you see the attachment that you should have in your packet. So we request that y'all take action on that tonight. Surplusing of the weapons, which is all of our handguns and our rifles. Due to them being at end of life, we typically only like to keep them around 5 years, and then we try to trade them for new generation weapons. So we have an upcoming sale for confiscated weapons, and they've changed that law over the years since we've had our last sale. So we're asking tonight that you appropriate or earmark those funds to be appropriated once this confiscated sale goes through, for us to be able to use to help offset the cost of the new weapons that we will be purchasing. So we'd like action on that tonight. The reduction of the K-9 that we had, it's in your packet, reference to retiring 2 of our K-9s to have them pulled off our asset list. This will be a cost savings to the county of around $9,000 annually, because we pay supplements for those K-9s. So we'll reduce this down to 1 K-9. Also, the cost saving is around $6,000 typically to the drug fund. That will help us purchase other equipment and things that we may not have to ask the county for taxpayer dollars for, because we have to pay for boarding, vet bills, any kind of upkeep plus their food. So that will be also asked for action to be taken on that tonight.
We just need a motion to surplus there.
Yeah, we need to surplus weapons and surplus those, yes.
Are the officers gonna keep their dogs personally?
Yes, yes, they are. One had a lot of health issues, he's about 10 years old, so we really don't have a choice but to retire him. The other one, has been with the handler since he's about 2 months old. Quite frankly, we're just scared for the liability. This dog is very vicious and is almost bit one of the investigators one day.
tonight is the school resource grant. As y'all know, that we were awaiting a budget to pass for this fiscal year, as we've had this discussion to apply for this grant. Currently, we have 5 SROs, 1 sergeant, 1 lieutenant, so it means 7 SROs altogether. All the schools in the district have a full-time SRO except for this building. The governor's funding that has been put out, which is $140 million, will allow us to apply for 7 additional school resource positions. The funding is set aside, which is $525,000, $75,000 per school, per SRO, and that would be the new SROs would be funded from that. I've been in contact over the past several months as there were so many questions about how this funding would be used. We had the Tennessee Sheriff's Association Director, Jeff Bledsoe, which is a retired sheriff here in Tennessee. Also with Jimmy Music, which is the legal consultant that has all the dealings with the General Assembly, where we pass and present all of our laws in the state of Tennessee. The funding can be used to fund salaries, to fund equipment, to purchase vehicles, and for training, and a few other things. So at the end of the fiscal year, the money that's not expended will be returned back to the state. This administration has met several times with Dr. Heath and his staff, and it was initially discussed that we would potentially maybe need 4 school resource officers. Then we decided maybe 5 school resource officers. So we decided that it would be in our best interest, in the school's best interest, to protect our children, to go ahead and apply for all 7 positions. Does that mean at this point that we will fulfill all those 7 positions? But we would like to go ahead and secure that funding, to have that funding earmarked for those positions, to assure that we do whatever is appropriate for this county and our children. So when I had spoke to Jimmy, because I know there was questions, a couple commission meetings or a couple budget meetings ago about how the funding again was going to be spent, or how it was earmarked or could be spent. I asked the question about the funding going away. So his response to me, he said that $140 million is reoccurring, which means the money will be there every year until the General Assembly removes it, which would be very, very unlikely to happen. The intent of the plan is for the state to have this grant moving forward indefinite amount of time. So it would take not just a new governor coming in, because I know that was questions, and I had this in writing from him on email, not just a conversation we had on the phone. It would take the General Assembly to actually vote to pull this funding away from our schools, for this funding to ever be pulled. So that's, and it will also, one other thing, that because the program is growing and is going to be growing potentially to 14 people, which means Joyce is restructuring, which put the lieutenant and then has a sergeant also. We'd like to see them potentially freed up to be able to visit our schools and visit our administrators, to know what's going on and keep up with the program, because we have a very successful program that we've run now full-time with all these people for around 8 years. So that would be funding that's currently within our county budget now to be able to continue that program.
Questions in regards to this SRO issue? What kind of, do we have funding that we need to match on this new grant, or they're paying it all?
It's 100%. The only thing that we may run into eventually at some point in time is vehicles, but there is money within there to purchase vehicles. I spoke with Dina and Jason this morning in reference to that, because we will not be able to actually take every vehicle and put someone else in it, but we are looking at potentially purchasing maybe some used vehicles to help offset that cost.
Just curious how many counties and school systems out there really didn't have any kind of SRO program, and if maybe that's why they're really getting this out there, because there are some counties that hadn't done anything. Of course, like you said, we've had a successful program for 8 years now. Are other counties out there, are there counties that didn't have any kind of?
Well, by the way that it was put out to us, they put in some new laws that we had went over in our last meeting with the school system, talking about checking doors in our buildings. So our SROs are now checking doors daily. So there is steps that's put into place that has to be reported to different people in reference to these doors being open. Also, the highway patrol is coming around the doors also for security for these buildings, and they have to report back appropriately, which that's probably part of the governor funding situation. But if it's found that you have X amount of infractions, and I can't state it specifically, but X amount of infractions that has been reported, they mandate you only a 30-day time frame to place an SRO in the school. So that obviously is an issue.
Another issue that we have is filling those positions for SROs. We talked about that earlier in the personnel committee, because all of the school systems in different counties are they're applying for these grants, so everybody's struggling to fill the positions for these additional SROs.
Any other questions about the SROs? Okay. Anything else that you've got here?
Just a couple other things. We had applied for a TCI grant, that's $15,000. It's 100% reimbursable grant for training equipment. So we've already submitted that application, so that money should be coming to us because it's almost guaranteed funding, which will be no cost to the county on that.
Do we need to take any action on that?
No, sir. I've got some informational only items that I'd like to discuss just to bring back to the committee. We had placed an order for the gel freezer. As we discussed, we purchased the gel freezer June the 30th of this year. Well, we wasn't so lucky to make it to the gel freezer staying with us. So it has now died on us, which was within a couple weeks of the actual purchase of the other one, which was 12 weeks out. So right now, we're expending with a company to have a freezer on site. We've expended $4,500 for the delivery and setup fee for it to be delivered to us in the first month's rental. We've also expended $3,000 for the second month rental. We're going to be going into the third month rental, which will be another $3,000, which is a cost of around $10,500. So we're hoping, we got an update on it today, we're hoping to have that freezer in within the next 4 weeks, so we hope not to have to pay one more rental on that. So that's just information. The QCHC contract with our medical. So understand that it was not passed this year, it put within the budget for the money to be funded for that contract. So Joyce and I decided that we needed to sit down after I had spoke with Jason in reference to the situation with Richie Harbison, which is the COO of the company, along with Kim, which is the nursing director of the company, to discuss the matter. We'll be having another meeting probably before the October budget meeting, because we have asked if they could locate anywhere that they could shave any sort of cost, because we don't really have projected figures at this point, because we're just now, not even a year into the circumstance. So we can't really use projected costs to say we're going to need this amount of money every year. So I hope to have something back to you guys with some sort of cost savings, if at all possible, for us to discuss next meeting. The last thing, Joyce had spoke about this during the personnel meeting tonight. We're currently down 10 positions in the jail, which is a whole shift plus 2 people. So we're challenged as to how we hire, who we hire, and if we can even hire at all. And we know that's other places too in this community and every other community around. We have no applications. We had 2 people that did apply that was coming for interviews and was no call, no show, no call back. So that's kind of where we are right now. Indeed, we have it out on Indeed. We have it on social media, on Facebook. So we're doing all we can to try to help offset the cost, because as y'all know, we're working on overtime situation with the deputies working, also with corrections officers working. But we're getting to the point where we're at burnout phase for the good corrections officers that are with us, so we have to be real cautious as to how we're handling that also. So, we had asked the personnel committee tonight for some incentive potential that we could bring to the table for hiring, because we threw money at it, and obviously that's not working either. So, and it's not us challenged, it's everyone around us too. So just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. And the final thing is the building at Hyrotech substation. So myself and Joyce met with Doug Campbell in reference to this project, and him and I and Joyce had a good discussion on what we see the vision for the building is going to be and how it's to be drawn out. Mike Davis, which is over our maintenance for our exterior, He's going to help draw out our portion of the building. We're going to propose and present that to Doug to see kind of where we are on that. So that is moving forward, as we know, that's out of ARP money. That's all I have for tonight.
I
Question?
got, refresh my memory on the health care of the inmates. I know we had that contract with the company.
So,
Okay, in this year's budget, did we put a figure in there?
no, we left the figure at 207, so I did request it, and I wasn't sure exactly why it wasn't funded initially. So, I questioned myself, did I present it appropriately, you know, what was the situation? But at the end of the day, the money was cut, it was $200,000 is what we had requested to be added to the $279,000 is where we estimated we potentially would be with healthcare provided by this company and outsourced healthcare, which is hospital bills, et cetera. So the money wasn't put within the budget, and that's why we went back and tried to have a discussion with QCHC to see if there was anywhere that they could potentially shave any of the $330,000-ish cost that is getting paid to them, that we're paying by monthly, or on the month to them.
So was 470,000 approved in the budget?
279 is what was approved last
Oh.
fiscal year, and what is approved this fiscal year for
Okay.
23-24.
But the
Which is
contract
a
for 330?
shortfall. A shortfall. I looked at budget numbers, I talked to Dina about this, before we had the meeting with QCHC the other day. Budget numbers were around $404,000 for last year, and that does not include pharmaceuticals, but that's budgeted separately from this.
Right.
So, looking at that, set aside, it looks like if we stay on that track, we would potentially have a loss of about $125,000 that we would need to make up within this budget process to do so.
Okay. That's right.
And I'll have some further for you guys, next week.
Okay, any more questions for the sheriff and the CFO? Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have Mr. Jason Nix, Finance Director.
Thank you. First up is the 101 General Fund Budget Amendments. First amendment I have is 2001-7548, and that's for revenues expenditures for the Lee County Volunteer Fire Department, Boone Seal, purchase of equipment. And the next one I have is $1,500 received from a TVA donation to EMA. The next one is $60,538. That is to rebudget from prior year TIF payment that was not expensed until the new fiscal year, and that payment needs to be made. Last one I have is $1,624.75, also to rebudget from prior year obligated, should be extended from last year. To go a little further with the 101, I also have a couple of amendments from different departments. First is Randy Dealap, Register of Deeds. He's requesting to transfer $1,635 from the Register of Deeds data processing restricted account to the Register of Deeds 51600-435 to purchase deed books and paper. The next one I have is from our county clerk, Ms. Phyllis Counts. She's saying I would like to request a budget amendment in the amount of $4,700 to be moved from the earmarked data processing fee. This is to purchase hardware, software, on county minutes, web minutes, scanner, scan installation, and travel costs. And that is all I have, certainly 101. Next up is the 141 General Purpose School Budget Amendments. First one is $96,925.58. That is a request from Susan Welch, who's the CTE supervisor, and that is to relocate money. It's basically all talking about the TCAT shovel supplies and dual enrollment classes, donations made from Aaron's company and also the Rural Development Partners LLC for all of their STEM lab. The next one is $1,151. That is also from Ms. Susan Welch to allocate money, and pretty much the same things, talking regarding the same dual enrollment classes. The next one is $83,600. Supervisor Ricky Bryant from Facilities is reallocate from last year's funds. You can see the breakdown there that he's given, and part of that is for the Blanche football field where they redid that process. Next page. Next one I have is for $3,491,900. That is the Innovative School Model E-Plan grant-based revision and balances of last year, basically setting up for the CTA department It's their STEM lab, and they, if you don't know, they've gotten a grant, they're moving money around for all those budgets to get this STEM lab up and going. Next one is $695,932.54. That's the voluntary pre-K budgets, pending the E-plan approval. Local match was already approved as part of the 23-24 original budget. Next one is $158,564.98, public school security grant through E-plan. And you can read down what all schools that affects right there. Next one's $235,000. That is the LEAPS program. That's getting it going off the ground as well for this year. And the last one's for $400, and that was to pressure oil changes of vehicles within Margaret campus. And that is all I have for the 141 general school purpose funds. Next thing I have is a resolution for unclaimed property. This is a resolution we do every year. Basically, get this signed, we get about $12,000, is that right, Dina? So once this is signed, we can send it in to request our $12,000 unclaimed property. Any questions on the resolution? Next up, county health insurance attachment. At budget time, every year kind of for SOP, we always budget in a certain percentage for insurance costs as they rise, premiums rise. We actually got really lucky. Every year, this year we budget in about 10%, which is pretty basic. We do the same thing on the school side as well. Theirs came up a little higher, I think 5.1. But on the county side, we got really lucky. There was really no change. And in some lines, it actually went down, believe it or not. The only one I can see that I've scanned through this is probably the employee and spouse side. It went up about almost $39, I believe. But our request is, since we've already allocated this money, it's already out there, there's no change, just to keep doing what we've always done. Just let the county still contribute what they've always contributed.
What was the increase on the health insurance? The overall increase in?
There wasn't.
It was
So I'm
zero.
saying it's basically
And
zero.
what's the total insurance of the county versus the employees? 80-20, 70-30, what?
Jason, when I looked at this, I thought it was a 9% increase. When you take the premium, I'm looking at the one for premiums 2024.
Well, if you just look at last year, the
Yeah.
total premium employee was $827, total
Yeah.
premium. This year it's $826.01.
Okay, so there's two different plans here. I was looking at the 826
Okay.
compared to the 901.
I got you. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's two different plans.
There's two, right?
Yes, there's two
Yes,
plans.
ma'am.
Most all the majority of the employees fall under that network S,
They
that
want-
top one, as opposed to
Okay.
B. Yes.
Most of them fall into which one?
The first one, the top one, the
If
network
you
S.
broke it out, how many total employees do we have? And of those total employees, how many is in the first plan and how many is in the second plan?
That I don't know. I can get that for you, but as far as total employees of the county side, gosh, I had that number on the desk. It's 200. Total employees counting the whole school system, which you can't, the school system's 745 always, they're fluctuating, but I think ours is around 290.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
This applies to the county as well as
County.
the school system?
No.
School system on their own, it's
Okay.
just the county side.
Okay. So 270,
270, 290 maybe
Okay.
tops.
and so you don't know how many's in the first plan?
No, I don't have the numbers broken down.
The reason I asked the question, there may be an opportunity to drop from having two plans to just one.
Well, these
They
plans
look so
actually come,
close to the
they're from the
premium, like I
state
said,
side, they're from the state side, so they're offered, what the state employee offers, we now have hooked up with that, I don't know how many years now, I didn't really ask that question, it's several now. So we're getting the same insurance company plans that the state level gets as well.
Doesn't cost us anything to have some variety, I guess, for them, so.
So you got Cigna as well as Blue Cross Blue Shield. So no premium increase, right?
Correct, well, I can't say no, it's very minimal. Like even if you drop down to the network P, the employee, 892 last year, 901. I mean, when you're talking about increases of insurance, that's virtually no increase.
Actually, it did go up, the increase did go up, it was small.
Well, on the county side, there are no employees that take the network P.
Okay, so.
Everybody's on the network
Yes.
S.
Okay. It went down some.
But anyway, our recommendation would be to keep it what we've done last year. Any other questions on that?
Any other health insurance questions?
I'd like to know what is the breakdown of the plan? How much does the county pay? Is it 80%, 85%, 90%, and how much does the employee pay?
Right at 89,
89 cents.
just on that one, so you're talking about around 90%
So the employee pays 11%.
in that scenario, yes, sir.
You know we're out of whack with that when you look at national average. It's usually like an 80-20 or something like that.
And over the years, we have eaten some of those increases.
I hope going forward we don't, because that's probably the reason we were in the process, in the troubles that we were in last year, for the last 4 or 5 years.
Any other questions on health insurance? Okay, Jason.
Okay. My item E is the bridges interpreting. This is from Lisa Simmons. Basically, she has to bring in a hearing impaired interpreter, sign language basically, or signer for a lot of her hearings and stuff, and she's actually had to do that recently, and she's got 2 more coming, so we got the bill for the one she did recently, and I don't have that contract, but the bill was around $900, almost $1,000, just to have somebody come in for 1 day. So she searched out and found a new contract to look closer. This one comes out of, they had 3 locations, but we'll be coming out of Nashville. Long story short, if it was the same scenario, it would have saved about $300 if we already had this contract in place. So she's moving this forward through us to see if we can approve this contract with this company going forward. Because like I said, she does have 2 other coming this month that she will need this interpreter. So,
Let me ask something, Jason, is this just gonna be for the courts, or can the schools use it when they need an interpreter?
We have a call-in service if we need it.
So this says calling in too.
that'll be on the school side, their board have to look at that part of it. They'd be welcome to see the information I can share it with them. But this is just right now, I'm just talking about the Sunday report.
Okay,
Any other
questions?
questions on that? I think financials are included in your packets, and, if you
They're
have any
online.
questions, you can- they're in your packets, they're not printed.
All right, any questions for the finance director on any of his stuff? All right, let's go back to the top of the agenda and, had the mayor first. That was had the opioid distribution. He requested that we vote on the $2,800 a month, $33,600. And as we stated, this money came from the opioid lawsuit settlement where the pharmaceutical companies had to pay a huge settlement that was dispersed. So what is the will of the body in regards to this issue?
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Mr. Taylor moves that we approve.
I'll second.
Bonnie seconds. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, next we go down to, I guess, the resolution for the financing would be the next thing. What's the will of the body in regards to that?
I move to approve.
Mr. Taylor moves that we approve.
Second.
Sanders seconds. Any questions for Ashley? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next, we have some of the items from the Sheriff McConnell and Ms. Metcalf at the Sheriff's Department. Got the K-9 reduction surplus. I guess we need a motion to surplus that. What's the,
So move we approve.
Schuman moves that we approve.
I'll second.
Seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next, we have the SRO contract. What's the committee want to do with that?
Move to approve.
Sanders moves we approve.
Second.
Kate seconds that. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next item is the surplusing of the guns. The will of the body in regards to that.
Move to approve.
Mr. Hambrick moves that we approve. Ms. Goodwin seconds. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next, we have the clothing allowance.
So moved, we approve.
Ms. Kate moves that we approve.
Second.
Mr. Sanders seconds. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, next we had the TCI training grant, 15,000 of training equivalents. Will the body in regards to that?
Move to approve.
Mr. Taylor moves that we approve. Ms. Bonnie seconds. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That get all the items that we had, the rest of it, I think, was information. We get everything, what,
The only thing on the surplusing of the weapons, I had asked for the confiscated weapons that we are fixing to sell, that we just actually accepted an RFP on today, that money, when it comes in, be earmarked to help offset that cost.
okay, all right. We need to go back and just amend that, or go back and correct that motion? All right, so that motion would need to be that, that money goes back. So can we, who made that original motion?
Jason.
I move to approve that.
Move to approve that. Is that okay with you if we change that a little bit? All right, who's our second? All right, everybody on board with that? All right, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry about that.
Thank
You, ma'am. All right, get to the finance director. Got the 101 general fund budget amendments.
So we approve.
Bryant moves that we approve.
I second.
Kate seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Our next, we have the 141 general purpose school fund budget amendments.
Move to approve.
Taylor moves that we approve.
Second.
Mr. Sanders seconds. Any discussion, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. All right, next we have the unclaimed property resolution.
Move
So
to
moved, we
approve.
approve.
Ms. Kate moves that we approve. Hambrick seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next, we have the county health insurance. You remember the days when it would jump 10, 15%. It's wonderful news to barely have any increase at all.
Move to accept the finance director's, advice.
Mr. Bryant moves that we approve finance director's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Ms. Kate seconds that. Any discussion or questions in regards to this issue? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Next, we have the bridges interpreting contract for the course. I believe that saved us a little money. Any questions in regards to that? Entertain a motion for that. Ms. Bonnie Caldwell moves. Mr. Taylor seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Last, we have the financials. Everybody in regards to that. Mr. Sanders moves that we approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Hambrick seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I didn't have anything tonight. Is there anybody else have anything else that we need to talk about tonight?
I'd like to thank Ashley for coming down and doing all the work he's been doing. We still have a little bit of work to do, but thank you so far.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice to have our guy that we can trust and dealt with for a long time. It's a good thing to have. All right, there's nothing else. Entertain a motion to we adjourn.
I make that motion.
Taylor moves that we adjourn. Ms. Kate seconds. All in favor, rise.